All right, I'm gonna try to call him. Ooh, there we go. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, I see his little apple.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Is this Christine?
It is, and I'm holding Maria here. I don't know if you can see us. I see your little.
Yes, I can. I'm so sorry that I'm sorry this took so long on maybe my end, and also I'm sorry that I can't seem to get my webcam working. So you're gonna have to look at my Apple.
That's okay. That's okay. Um, Thank you for working so hard to try to get to talk to us. We really appreciate your time.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so I guess Maria, do you want to start with your questions since you're right there with them? I know you just popped them in for me, but you're already here, so.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions. What was this your original question, Alex, that you started off with? The student's perspective of the use of technology in the class, or did it evolve? Did it keep changing as you continued your research?
That's a good question. It was always so after we ended our first research class, which is you're in the first one right now, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
I had 3 ideas at the end of that course. And then I did eventually, sometime in the second class, I settled on the technology idea. I'm not sure if I had the student perspective. I knew I wanted to do something with technology. I think I always had the idea of student perspectives in my head. So it might have been just narrowed a little bit more, but by the time I had kind of settled on that specific idea by the second research class, out of my 3 ideas, then I kept it for the rest of the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
I actually, it sort of made me think of a question. And it seems from the paper to have a little bit of this sort of thrust that the ideas between the students are sort of in contrast, not necessarily conflict, but the support and the sort of perception of the laptop initiative was sort of viewed differently from the student's perspective than it was from the teacher's perspective. And was the way it showed up in your paper, did you find yourself being more prejudiced to partaking in the student's perception versus the teacher's, or do you think that affected the way that you viewed your research?
That's a good question. Well, one of the related flaws to the paper is when it was done. I mean, it was very timely because we just got the one-to-one initiative, but that's also the problem. We just got the one-to-one initiative.
Right.
So that means students got their devices, they picked them up the last week of August, and then we started school right away. And then my survey results were from September, the first week of school.
Right.
My focus group results are from November, so that's a little bit better because so all those quotes are maybe a bit more valid because the students have had them for a few months. In terms of kind of if it influenced me or where I sided, the teachers had a wide, and I didn't talk about it too much, but the teachers had a wide range of views. There's, like you would expect, there's some teachers who were on board for one-to-one gung ho, and there are other teachers who, teachers were able to pick up the device in like May or June, and there are some teachers who picked it up in May, and then they didn't open it again. So while I kept an eye out for what teachers were thinking, come September, I already knew I'm focusing on the students. So it was really all how do they feel, and the teachers really only became relevant in terms of how were they implementing it, and that was only relevant because I wanted to see how students felt about the teachers' implementation. So I don't think I was, I don't think I was hurt too much by the pros or the complaints of the teachers or the satisfaction that the teachers had. and I'm almost never in the faculty room. So if that helps.
Right. Right.
What kind of training did the teachers and the students receive on the new technology, on this new piece? Because I noticed in your paper it was a big deal that some of the students had said, why couldn't they have used a Mac instead of the Microsoft? And were you guys even polled to say, which would you prefer, or what do you think would be more successful in our district?
Were we polled? We were never officially polled or anything. I love where I work, but you could have gone to the board meeting and voiced your concern there, but there was never any official wide survey or anything. I love where I work, but lots of stuff like this could be perceived as secretive or at best just lacking communication. In terms of what was the first part of your question was
Training.
What again?
Training
Can you repeat it?
to the students and to you on how to use it, or how long did that take?
Oh.
Did it impact your?
Right. So in terms of training or professional development that the teachers got, when we picked up our devices in May or June of the prior school year, and you could open up the box and you could learn how to turn it on. And there's a stylus. You could learn how to sync your stylus, and that was it. Over the summer, there was a few PD courses, but it was over the summer, so obviously it was optional, and the listing of the courses was sent out like last week of June, so it was terribly late, so poorly executed there by central office. Come school year, so we have 2 professional development days before the kids come. So we had 1 full day of all technology all day, and then I think half of the second day was technology also. So we had that PD there. We have tech coaches, so we have 1 tech coach in every building that was affected by the one-to-one initiative. Training. Next year we're going over to Schoology, which is a learning management system. We've gotten some initial training on that. There's more training this month actually on that. So there's been some training. Has there? I don't know if there's, necessarily been enough. But I think the implementation of the tech coaches is helpful because if someone wants more training or needs one-on-one help, they can book a tech coach, which I think is really cool. So is it enough? I don't know, but they've offered training to get people more comfortable. I don't know if it was a great start right off the bat, but I think it's gotten better.
Okay. I kind of have a follow-up. So we actually went to a one-to-one initiative like 3 years ago. We went with Macs. That was sort of a coup at the time. Everybody was thinking PCs because that's what our school technology, our laptop carts were PCs. They were Microsoft, and the teacher computers were all PCs. There were no Macs in the school, but when they went with the choice for Macs, it came with an Apple coach, and they just, for whatever reason, that was the leasing agreement that they went with. They did give us a sort of input. They did an informal survey to see which one they thought, the teachers thought would be the best fit.
Okay.
And we do use Schoology. Actually, we've been on Schoology for like 2.5 years now. It is fantastic. All of the programs in your Wordle, I highlighted a bunch of them that I have just hooked in my resources in Schoology. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic resource, and Google Classroom syncs in seamlessly with it. So you're going to enjoy Schoology, and it will get some of the teachers that are on the fence about whether and how to use technology. Even just make it like this sort of one shop receptacle for all of a student's classes on their roster. Whatever the student's sort of agenda for the day is all synced right into Schoology in a drop down, and they're all sort of preloaded. It's so super easy. Before we went into that one-to-one initiative, our tech situation was dicey at best. Our Wi-Fi was a little bit of a mess after the laptops came in. They had to reconfigure and put like major boosters on our Wi-Fi. What was your technology setup before you guys got your one-to-one? Because I'm wondering if there's like a pattern of once you have, and I was talking to Maria about this because it's funny, you guys just went one-to-one. My school's been one-to-one for a really long, for not really long time, but comparatively like 2.5, 3 years. 3 years is a pretty long time. And Maria's school is about to go in about 1 to 2 years. And I find it interesting because it's her setup for, the trepidation with which a lot of teachers are sort of thinking about this laptop the one-to-one initiative, and the way that the teachers in my district were sort of thinking about it sounds somewhat similar, like very, very unsure about the outcome and whether they wanted to actually have it happen. And some people just have it on their desk to take attendance sort of things. What was your school's relationship to technology before the one-to-one?
So we also had Wi-Fi concerns ahead of time. They did a whole study to see what's the connection like. They found where it was weaker, found parts of the building where it was stronger. My department was lucky because before one-to-one, we had, 4 computer labs in our department, like classrooms with computers for every kid. So we were lucky with that. Most departments didn't have that. Departments who did not have that, we did have a lot of carts. Not a cart for every room, but still enough carts where it's normally not an inconvenience to sign one out, right? Like it'll be a pretty good bet that you'll be able to get computers the day you need them. Not always, but we may do. So we had that. There's computers in the media center, so there's enough computers in the media center for I think 2 classes to be down there and for everyone to be on a device. I think we had, and we've gotten rid of some of this stuff in the media center. It's gone to the lower schools now. We lost 2 of our labs in our department. Those computers moved down to the lower schools. So some departments had the technology, but when everybody got it, it definitely felt like more of a shift because it's not so much the teacher deliberately scheduling technology as an event. They didn't have to sign out the cards and be like, okay, today's the technology day. The kids have it, and the kids now they just come into the room and just take it out of their bag like normal.
Becomes part of routine.
So that was a big shift, and then I guess it's just down to a matter of individual teachers based off, well, do you like that shift or not? So there was a lot of staff members who did want more, though. There was definitely a desire to have more technology.
Okay.
And at this point, I mean, once that train has left, in reference to a district spending that kind of money to have every student have a computer, you're looking at there's no turning back. So everybody better be getting on board and understanding and knowing what's happening with the technology. And so this is where my question comes in. Would you say that the students you surveyed for your paper have an understanding of using technology in an educational setting, or do they need to be taught how to use like search engines and things like that? Or they think that they are so tech savvy? I mean, Christine was sharing with me how her media specialist is, and I have to tell you, my media specialist, all she does is take the computer out of the computer cart and hand it to the student. So how is that in your district? Do you have a media specialist like what Christine talks about in her school?
That's funny. We have 2 media specialists. One's been there for a long time, and the other one is actually new this year. The one, and they sound more like yours. They're not really. It's funny. So since the one that was new this year, they just posted, the job for it last year, and I was reading the job description for media specialists, and there's a lot of no surprise, but there's a lot of technology stuff in that job description. This woman who just got it, she's been gunning for a library position for a while now. So much so that when she was initially trying to transition out of the classroom, that job looked a lot different. And she did get the job. But so anyway, if you need tech help, you go down to the media center still, but you don't go to the media specialist. We've got a help desk. It's trying to be modeled after the Genius Bar in an Apple store. So our
That's what we
tech
have
people
too.
who we had already, the guys who would come up and fix it if there was a problem,
Right.
they've been given a bigger role. They kind of unfortunate, like they're great, but probably unfortunately for them, they now have much more of a really almost a customer service role, honestly, because they are now in the media center, no longer behind closed doors like they were, but now they're in the media center, visible, and kids literally or teachers literally go up to them and get whatever technical, not PD, not training, but whatever technical help they need. And that's been a big help because I have kids we have Microsoft services and they're not perfect. And I can rely on them downstairs. I say, okay, do you want to go down to the Genius Bar? And the kid just goes down and comes back up in 5 minutes. So that's been helpful. The first part of your question, can you repeat that first part of your question?
I was going to say, but in surveying your students, did you ask them? You had said something about educational setting. That there is a difference in your paper that's noted about that. Do they feel that they need training on how to search? Use search engines or use different apps or anything to help them to get to, let's say, do a project or whatever.
Yeah. I'm definitely a proponent of teaching them how to use the devices for those purposes because I think most of them don't know.
Yeah.
I think the assumption is they do because you look at them using the device and they appear to be using it proficiently. They're very fast. They're very, they can, most of them can, depending on the district, but most of them can type well. But when it comes to things like searches, you're right. Like I still have kids who don't know how to do a proper search, or I still have kids who there's a lot of simple things that they can't do. I think part of it is they're so used to being given step-by-step directions their whole life, and a lot of technology learning I think happens best when you're kind of forced to discover things. And they have the minds to do it, but I think they do kind of get a little bit helpless, or the execution isn't that great. I try to share with them new websites and everything, and sometimes there's resistance. Usually not a ton of resistance, but there's often questions that are honestly, I think, relatively simple if you just look at the few buttons on the screen and just try some process of elimination. But that doesn't mean that they should know better. I mean to say they do need the assistance and they do need to be taught. So I think it's something hopefully some schools are starting to recognize. We're trying to beef up our summer program at Livingston, and one of the new courses, like enrichment classes, and one of the new courses is computer success for high school or something like that. So I think that's a step in the right direction, because I think that course should really be all about what kind of skills do you need in the high school classroom, like research skills, creating skills, design skills. We have teachers using screencasting, so for kids to make videos now. Those types of skills I think definitely need to be taught, along with just being a good normal human being on the internet and not being inappropriate or being a jerk. I think it definitely needs to be taught. I don't think it's happening too much.
How about the low functioning kid? Do you have, when you did your survey of your students, are there any that are like not ambitious in any way or not motivated in any way in their pursuit of their diploma at this point for a high school level?
And their relation to technology, and how do they feel about technology?
Right.
Okay.
How does technology impact the low performing student? I actually, if I can add sort of a layer to the question. So
Yeah.
I think if I know Livingston a little bit, it's it's a little bit better suited of us in terms of socioeconomic um, capabilities. Like the expectation for most students is that their parents went to college, they're professionals, then the children will go to college and become professionals. Is that the right demographic?
Yeah, 99% of our kids go on to college.
Right, right. So it's not always going to be the same. So Maria has um, a much more diverse population in her
Hmm.
school. A lot, I think Maria, you were saying like, um,
At 50% is African American. I'd say 20% is Asian. Uh, I'd say 10% is more like 15 is Latino, and the rest is of Caucasian. So my demographics are hugely different, I think, than Livingston's at this point.
so when in terms of maybe like the low performing student,
Hmm.
and then where I'm from in Park Ridge, I have a. I was trying to explain how a town can be very blue collar, but kind of um, like high performing blue collar because it's actually quite the blue collar town. Now it's turning over and becoming more professional. But even when they were strictly blue collar, there was like a mentality of doing well financially. Like these were blue collar people who did well financially.
Hmm.
Um, so there's still now, moreover, an expectation of you will go to college. And even though we have somewhat of a diverse population, I would say maybe 8% of our students are Latino or Latina, and then maybe 1% is African American or black, depending. Um, we don't have a ton of diversity, but we do have socioeconomic diversity. So when kids in my school got some of the kids in my school got laptops, like they didn't have a machine at home. There was no like home machine.
Hmm.
These are kids whose parents may or may not be here legally. I think Maria said the same in her district. She's not sure who's here legally, illegally, and what that sort of so that home life, that struggle at home, and that difference in expectation does. So when we're talking about like a low performing student, um, and I think that we've all dealt with kids who are just sometimes the grade doesn't even motivate them. But have you had an experience where you were able to use sort of technology to either entice or where technology has been a real stumbling block for a low performing student?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in Livingston, in Livingston, there's even the kids who are low performing are usually not that bad off. And there is, the diversity is a bit different. We've got about 20 to 30% are Asian. We've got a big Russian population. We've got a big Jewish population. A lot of the Russian kids, some of the Asian kids are first generation, so that's always exciting. We've got I've got we've got a decent amount. Lots of our ESL students are Chinese, having just been here for a couple years. But technology is able to help. They're not low performing, but technology has been able to help them in different ways. One kid I'm thinking about when you asked me kind of the follow-up question about using the technology for the engagement factor, for the betterment factor. I think that's definitely possible, with the lower performing student, because my paper was really all about what do students value, and then once you know those values of your own students, what technology can you use to fit those values and to fill the needs and struggles you have as a teacher and struggles they have as students. So I think if you can find those, you can really engage a kid, or at least move them in the right direction, depending on where they are right now. I have two kids, definitely not dumb at all, but grades are way lower than what they should be, because they're not motivated by grades. And they're both freshmen, so it's even a little bit, sometimes surprising to see they're kind of them starting out high school this way. But anyway, we do a business plan project in my intro to business class, and they were. I learned that one of the kids in the pair. It's a pair of kids who are both, similar. They could be high performing, but they have struggles in their life, and they're not they've gotten ISS a few times already. Um, but I learned one of the kids had a YouTube channel, and then once I learned that he had a YouTube channel, and he made these crazy videos, I was like, listen, yeah, you have to make advertisements as part of your business idea. You should definitely make a commercial. Now, this is something I normally never get. Like, I normally never have kids making commercials because they have other options when it comes to their ads, and commercial is probably the hardest advertisement you can spend your time making. Um, but these kids are like the kids who are like the least likely to pick the hard option. But these two kids did it. They made a commercial for their product that they were making. I
Come on in,
watched
Marcy.
them.
Sorry.
That's okay. They lit up. They were super excited. They got one or two other kids in the class to join in on the commercial, and overall, it was a great way to see. They have the devices. They were able to record on their devices to film the commercial. They wrote up a script, and they just ran on it. I provided very little direction. They wanted to keep it a secret from me until they got to presented to me later. They didn't want me to really see the process because they were that excited about it.
Yeah, that's right. I love what you said.
Yeah.
You have to find out how technology fulfills the needs of the students given their values. And I think that goes right back to the heart of your paper, which is really focused on the students. And I felt a little bit that, which I think happens sometimes when you sort of notice something about students, or you notice something about the way that they're perceiving something, and you sort of remember that, not idealism, but that sort of drive of what it is to be that young and have this sort of thing thrust upon you, and how do you use it, and sort of take up the mantle of I'm going to make sure these people get represented. And I thought that there was definitely that element to the paper, and that was why I asked you that first question pertaining to, did you feel as though it was, you were really pushing more through the lens of the student and sort of putting the teachers in the back seat? And now hearing you say stuff like that, this makes it much more, it sort of brings it fully around for me in terms of how you see the student's role in their own education, and your role in facilitating it. I actually made an analogy based off of something you wrote, but that it was like, which I think to some degree good teaching should be, which is like a driver's school car, like you put them in the driver's seat, but you've got the brake and the gas and the steering wheel, that you're like on the other side of the car and they're technically in the driver's seat, but you've got control really,
Yeah.
And I thought that made sense, but I think to Maria, to your question, and concerns about, can we really give these kids laptops and expect them to sort of do the thing and not fall into the mirror of RSA, that you do sort of put them in the driver's seat, and once they're in there, they're like, oh my God, this is a powerful machine. Oh my God, this is my education, and it's not so profound necessarily for them, but there is, I think, a shift in perception, and that happens. Oh, it's Maria. Where's she gone?
Oh, that's weird.
I think that I lost her at some point.
Oh, okay.
Let me call her back. But that was sort of.
Yeah.
I like to try to.
Yeah, somehow we got disconnected. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, I don't know where I lost you.
You
It's
were-
okay. We're recording the whole. We're recording the whole thing. I have to tell you that. I have you.
Okay.
I'm doing a screen recording because. Jeez Louise. Because obviously the Hangouts didn't work with all of us, so I told Bobby that Maria and I would screenshot this one so that we could just sort of
Okay,
post
great.
it on a private YouTube to him. I'm not going to post it out in the world. But
Right.
just that he would have access to the conversation, which is now like a really long conversation. I feel like we should be letting you go quite soon. Maria,
Yes.
Did you have any more questions?
No,
That's okay.
that was
What
it
else?
for me. And like I said before, Christine, Christine, I'm going to do the paper tonight and put it on Google for us
Okay.
to share, and then you guys can take a look at it, see if there's anything we want to add, or if if you want to change anything or add to it. And then we'll be back in touch and just have a nice spring break.
Thank you. You too. Alex, we're thick as thieves, we teachers. So we're going to steal some of your questions, and I like to do Google Form surveys in the beginning of my classes at the top of the year too, just to sort of get the students reacclimated and to remind myself who some kids are. But we're going to steal some of your questions to create a Google Form survey for Maria's kids and Bobby's kids and my kids. We're all going to get a cross section using some of your questions. So I'll send you. We can send you like the results if you're interested to see how across different districts that sort of plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. That would be great. I wish it would be great to ask my own kids some of those questions again, because things change over time.
Yeah.
And it is good, that's an important thing, because, even though I found those values that I found, that doesn't mean that all kids value that. I think it's just important to figure out what yours are.
Right.
Right.
Can we end the conversation with can you just give us an update? Where are they now? What might be an update on some of the way the kids and or teachers feel about the one-to-one initiative now? We're almost at chomping on the end of the school year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like things are mostly calm. I think people are doing a lot of reflecting. I know personally I'm thinking about how I want to change my own device policies next year, how I want to use the devices differently next year. Schoology, like I said, is coming down the line, so I think that's something that is on a lot of teachers' minds about how exactly they are going to use that. We've had some initial training so far. The kids, we have some seniors who use their MacBooks, but basically outside of that, no one is. So, next year I'm anticipating everybody on the same device, and so seniors will have graduated. I think in terms of, those are basically all pros. In terms of, I think because we've done this for a while now, I think teachers have found things they don't like. I mean, so have I, but I'm trying to think, okay, what do I want to change in my classroom? So, for example, distractions on the device. That's, of course, a big concern, because the kids can easily get distracted. Even a good teacher isn't going to see everything at the same time, because it's hard to see a kid's face and a kid's screen and 27 of them all at the same time. And we don't have any monitoring software, which we used to have on our computer labs. So that's something that's definitely a struggle, thinking about what is the expectation.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do some searching in terms of how to, all the PD was always focused on how to use a device best, right? But I think now that we'll have done this for 10 months when the year's over, I think it really needs to be, okay, what problems did we have? And that should really be where the PD is focused on. But really, I think, like you said, get with that Schoology got more people on board. If you're more advanced with technology in the school, I think you're thinking like I'm thinking, how do I want to fix these problems? If you're not, then you're absolutely right. I definitely feel the Schoology is the thing that's trying to get everybody on board, because there'll be a minimum requirement, a minimum expectation for usage, which wasn't the case with other things, because teachers adopted OneNote, teachers adopted Google Classroom,
right.
On their own. With Schoology, there's much more of a push to not replace those tools, because you can still use them. Like you said, there's integration.
Right.
But for those teachers who are a bit more tech shy, I think the feeling in the building is, okay, let me get used to this. Let me see what this is about. And, maybe it'll open up more paths for them to use technology. Because I think Schoology is even more impressive if you've been doing almost nothing, or the less you've done with technology. I think the more impressive Schoology is. So hopefully, I think more teachers will get on board, and we'll have even more good tech usage in the school.
What happens with Schoology is that the students, their update calendar, just anything that gets put in as an assignment shows up in their
Right.
calendar, and it gets categorized as sorry as within its own classes. So basically, that Schoology update, and this is like every kid has an excuse about I didn't know the homework, but as soon as it goes into Schoology, it gets logged in the calendar, and it becomes like a live planner for every single class. You don't
That's
have to
great.
sync it, you don't have to do anything. It just automatically goes into that kid's sort of functioning plan. It's awesome. And then
That's great. That's great.
the way I like to monitor the classroom with the laptops, I love to do in the middle of class if I am suspecting that maybe somebody or a couple people are off task. I don't know if this would work in every district, but I go hands up, and then everybody, and it's like a game. Like nobody's actually that upset. And if they're on something, and I'm walking around, I go hands up. Everybody has to put their hands up immediately. And if somebody's hands are on the keys, I'm like, oh, I know it's you. I know it's you. What are you doing? And then that way it becomes kind of like a game, but it's also like I'm totally watching you. You're not getting away with anything, and you're probably going to get like a little bit of time after school, like 5 minutes, talking to me about the importance of staying on task.
That's
Which
great.
is just
That's
annoying.
great. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
yeah.
One thing I've done, if any of you want to steal it, Control W or Command W if you're on a Mac will close a tab. So some teachers I've talked to aren't as comfortable doing it. But they have small desks. I have long arms. It's very easy for me to just go Control W, and I think it's like I kind of like equate it to like a teacher tapping on your desk if you're like dazing off into La La Land, because like
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like your idea a lot because it's a way to say like, hey, I see what's going on,
Yeah.
and 'cause I like that a lot. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. That's great. That's the kind of thing I want to think about for going into next year.
Yeah. And I think, the more that they're there, and I have no problem, I was telling Maria, I have no problem telling them, all right, laptop's closed. I'm the only one with the
Yeah.
laptop open right now. It's not just because it's in their possession that it's theirs. It's still owned by the school.
Yeah, yeah,
It's owned by their
exactly.
parents. It's not theirs.
I think
Mhm,
for me,
mhm.
they're so excited to have a laptop, and we have the laptop cart in my room
Yeah.
that they're like, and they realize that I've only blocked the laptop cart out for the day, so we've got to get as much done as we can in that one day.
Right.
And because it's we're all of us are scurrying to use the laptop cart. These next 2 weeks, I don't know what we're going to do because they literally have taken all of our laptop carts and they're doing all perm testing for the next 2 weeks in our school. And so we're stuck with no computers, and yet so much of my work is done on the computers now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do before
Yeah.
I did this? So having said that, I appreciate very much, Alex, you meeting with us. And Christine, I've got to go because I have a tutoring session at 4 o'clock with one of my students.
Yeah, I have to go. I've got children in the backyard dumping water on everything and everyone, so.
Sure, and good luck to both of you. If you need anything or have any more questions, just let me know. I know it's a long process, but they really do make the research. They really do scaffold it well. While it is a lot, and I feel bad for you guys because you guys I picked a longer paper. I wrote a little bit more than other students. But they really do a good job scaffolding it and supporting you. So anything you need, let me know.
Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Maria, I will talk to you
Yeah.
soon. And
Okay,
if we
bye,
think of
bye,
anything,
Christine.
we will email. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yes, sure thing. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Christine.
Bye.
Have a good.
You too. Oh, Jesus.